Welcome back in, everybody. Brady Farkas show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Today is day one of the NFL's legal tampering period. And in full disclosure, we're taping this interview in the morning, so I'm not going to talk too much about free agency because by the time it airs, the Pats may have already made 7 moves or 0 moves. So joining us now, though, mainly to talk about Cam Newton is Matt Verderame, the NFL director at Fansided.com. My old college buddy who has made it big now, and you should follow on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matty V, how are you?
I'm great. Getting ready for the chaos. How are you, Farkas?
Well, I'm good as well, and I hope by the time this airs, the Patriots have made 7 moves. But again, we'll stay away from free agency in total here. Let's talk about Cam first and foremost. Were you surprised to see the Patriots bring him back after what we saw last year?
A little bit, but I think it makes a lot of sense for a few reasons. Look, first and foremost, it's another 1-year deal. It's for $5 million with a bunch of incentives. So if you're going to bring him back at that money, it's really not even starter money. It's high-end backup money. As far as the $5 million is concerned, I mean, Andy Dalton got more than that last year to back up in Dallas. So obviously ended up playing quite a bit. Marcus Mariota got more than that to back up with the Raiders. The incentives make it worth Cam's while. So I understand it from both sides. But if you're the Pats and you want to go into free agency and you want to sign a couple of big-name pass catchers, whether that be Hunter Henry, whether that be one of the many wide receivers out there, it's a lot easier to do that by saying, hey, look, we have Cam Newton. Even though he didn't play well last year, he's still Cam Newton, and players still respect Cam Newton. It's a lot more attractive than, hey, we have Jared Stidham, and we might draft Mac Jones. And they could still draft the quarterback. They could still do that. In fact, I think they should. But I also think that it behooves them, hey, we have Newton in-house. That's the floor for our quarterback this year. And it helps to bring in some guys in free agency.
Look, I'm a big-time Cam homer. I like Cam. He really impressed me in a lot of ways, mainly with the intangibles. This team went 7-9 last year with a whole lot that went wrong, okay? I got to think that Cam's going to be a little bit better. They got all this money to spend. They got guys coming back from opt-out, and the schedule next year is easier. There is no Mahomes on the schedule, and they're not playing the NFC West. So if this team last year went 7-9, I'm thinking this year they're at least 9-7, maybe even contend for the division. Am I way too optimistic?
I don't think you're way too optimistic because the NFL is designed to close gaps really quickly. Now, the Patriots know better than anybody. You can defy that. They did it for 20 years. The Bills are really, really good. Like, I don't think the Bills are all of a sudden just going to fall off the face of the earth. Allen was terrific last year. Now, I do think there's a little regression built in for them. I don't know that they're going to be as healthy next year. Typically, teams aren't healthy like that 2 years in a row. And the Bills basically had nobody get hurt last season outside of Cody Ford. And Allen, while great, I mean, does he put up those numbers for 2 years in a row? It's hard. Mahomes hasn't had 2 years in a row like that. Diggs led the league in receiving. Does he do that again? Or does he drop down and maybe have 1,000 yards or 1,100 yards this year? So I think there could be a little regression for Buffalo. My biggest question with New England isn't even Cam. Like, I'm not as big on Cam at this point in his career maybe as you are. I think he's okay. But can they add enough weaponry around him? Because last year, you could argue they had the worst weapons in football. I mean, I like Harris at running back. I think he can play. But the rest of these guys, they had no tight end to speak of last year. You cannot trot out the same receivers they had or anything close to it. N'Keal Harry just flat out has not been able to show much at all his first 2 years. Edelman is older, now coming off an injury-plagued year. Bird is a guy who is a fourth receiver. He should not be getting a ton of snaps. So the Pats have the money, but they've got to go out and do it. If the Pats go out and get some weapons, like I said earlier, look, if they get like a Hunter Henry, and not even Galladay, but if they got like Corey Davis or somebody like that, then I think you do look at them differently. With all the opt-out guys coming back, they also need somebody who's a pass rusher. Luckily for them, there's a lot of pass rushers in the draft. So I can see the Pats coming back and winning 9-10 games, but I do think there's work to be done for them to get to that point.
Matt Verderame, NFL Director, Fansided.com, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. You mentioned talking about drafting a quarterback. I also agree. I think that's what the Pats need to do. I love bringing Cam back on the basis that you're also drafting somebody who's part of the long-term future. Yep. Does that have to be picking at 15? Does that have to be trading up to get into the top 10? Or is it trading back into the first round and getting somebody at 31, 32.
I always feel like with the quarterback, it's better to be aggressive. You start trading back, it's possible you still get a good quarterback, great quarterback, but most of the really good quarterbacks, they go early, and especially with quarterbacks in the sense that, look, if a guy's the 20th best player on the board, but he's a quarterback, he's going to go in the top 10 picks. That's just the way it is. Teams overdraft quarterbacks because of the outsized importance of them. So I think if you are New England, you look at past guys here in recent years, the Ravens traded up into the back end of the first, get Lamar Jackson. Now, he did go 32. So you could argue if you're New England, you want to trade back to, you could. But, the Chiefs went way up for Mahomes from 27 to 10. Houston went way up for Deshaun Watson, I believe, from 25 to 12. I don't think New England has to go from 15 to 2. But if New England could get from 15 to like 7, somewhere in there, I think that makes a lot of sense because I believe Lawrence and Wilson are going to be the first 2 picks in this draft. And then Carolina's at 8. Carolina's been sniffing around quarterbacks for a while. I think it would behoove New England, if they want to take a quarterback, get in front of Carolina, get in front of Denver, and get in front of San Francisco. If they're sitting there at 15, I don't know that there's going to be a quarterback for them to take. But keep in mind, the draft is a weird animal. And things happen. I remember covering the draft years ago, and he wasn't a quarterback, but Laramie Tunsil was thought to be a top 3 pick, surefire thing. During the draft lead up, that video of him with comes out with the bong and the mask.
Yep.
We're all sitting in the draft room, and it was chaos. Like, he just started dropping, and all of a sudden, Miami in the middle of the first round is like, "Yeah, we'll take him." Turns out to be a great player, right? So it's stuff like that you never know. I mean, things can happen, but I think if you're the Pats and you want a quarterback, you're probably gonna have to trade in the top 10 to get the guy you want.
I see the Patriots a lot like I see the Red Sox right now, and what I mean is that the Red Sox have traded away Mookie Betts, they've traded away Andrew Benintendi, and they've made some other moves to acquire prospects for the future. But they've also gone and signed a bunch of stopgap guys, Marwin Gonzalez and Danny Santana and Hunter Renfroe, and all these guys that are representative major league players but aren't long-term answers. I think the Pats should do the exact same thing. I think they need to focus in the draft. I think they need to sign 1 or 2 big guys in free agency. And with the way the cap is now, I think they can sign a bunch of 1-year veteran players that are looking for, prove-it deals, etc. So they get a better team in 2021 without hurting the long-term future money-wise. Do you like my plan?
Yeah, I don't dislike it. Listen, you're going to see a ton of 1-year deals anyway around the league. I've spoken to, I don't know, a dozen agents maybe in the last couple of weeks, and everybody's expecting a lot of 1-year deals because players want them this year. I think teams actually would prefer to, it's almost the inverse. Normally, teams want 1-year deals and players want long-term security. But because of the cap going down so hard this year, and the next year it's going to explode with the TV money and the 17th game and everything else, I think there's a thought that it's actually inverted where the teams would like to get guys locked up on rates based off this year, where players are like, "Nah, I'm good. I'll take a 1-year deal." Now, New England's in a weird position comparatively to what it's been for 20 years. New England might have to overpay a few guys because they're not with Brady anymore. And Belichick is a hard guy to play for. He's a great coach, but there's a reason he's a great coach. He's hard to play for. He's not a player's coach. He's not Mike Tomlin. He's not Andy Reid. Guys who you would associate with guys who maybe are a little more lax. Tomlin famously has veterans practice days where they don't have to practice. Roethlisberger, I don't think, he's practiced on a Wednesday in years. And even though it's the Boston market, it's Foxborough. It's not Vegas. It's not LA. And I think players for a long time were willing to overlook that because they just wanted to go there and win and play with Tom Brady and Gronkowski and everybody else. That's no longer the case. That said, money talks. And if New England pays the most, they'll be in good shape. I do agree with you on this, though. I do not look at New England and think, oh, this is some massive rebuilding project. They still have Belichick. They still have a lot of good players on the roster. But it needs to, in my opinion, be a significant assault on adding weapons and getting a pass rush, because last year they couldn't get a pass rush. And this year, offensively, if you're going to bring back Noon, or especially, frankly, if you're going to bring in a rookie, you've got to give that rookie more than what they've got right now. Yeah. You cannot put Trey Lance or Mac Jones out there and say, okay, here's our weapons. Good luck. That's not going to work out well.
You know, I was talking about this on Friday. I want to run this idea by you too. Do you think the NFL would break protocol on the way it handles teams getting back-to-back primetime games at the beginning of the season? So let me phrase it like this. Tampa Bay is going to play that opening Thursday night game like the reigning champion always does.
Yes.
What do you think week 2, Patriots home opener, Sunday Night Football, Bucks at Pats? It would give the Bucks 2 consecutive primetime games, but it provided there's full fans there. That's, I guess, contingent on that. You can get Brady at Cam week 2 when the Pats are still relevant. Because I think the worst thing for this game is they put it in November and the Pats are 3-7.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to break the protocol, but I could see that being like week 3, week 4. You know, where you're right. At least that way, everybody's still in the mix. I think the rule is, and they've kind of tweaked this over time with flexing games. I think the rule is you can only have 6 primetime games. And I would expect the Bucks certainly to have 6. So, yeah, I'm sure that will be one of them. I would be very, very surprised. You know, now that's with Tampa being in there. Now that's a Fox game if it's not in prime time, and so Fox could protect that. You know, I remember what was 2 years ago, I guess. Coming off the heels of that great AFC title game, everybody thought Kansas City, New England was going to be a primetime game Sunday Night Football, and it wasn't. It was a 4:25 game on CBS because CBS basically went into their TV meetings with the NFL and said, that game is our game. You're not putting that on NBC or on ESPN. So it is possible. But I would think that, yeah, I would think that'd be a primetime game. I don't think they'll go back-to-back, but I think it will be a primetime game because of obvious reasons.
Well, then maybe the Pats will get the rare 2 games on the road to start. Because I just think there's something cool about it being the Pats home opener. That's what I want that game to be the Pats home opener.
It could be. It could be. You know what? That'll be interesting. That'll be very interesting. That'll be one of the rare times you're not wondering, is you're going to get booed? Is you going to get cheered? Like, it'll be a long ovation. And, you know, knowing Tom, probably come out with his new ring on his finger.
Yeah.
And he'll probably hand it over to Belichick, and that'll be a good way to get the thing rolling.
Well, free agency in earnest starting today. We're breaking all of it down here on the other side of this interview on the Brady Farkas Show. Matt Verderame, NFL director at fansided.com. You can check him out on Twitter at Matt Verderame. He's as connected as anybody in the game, and we're appreciative of his time here with us today. Matty V, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.